Welcome to Storytelling.
This week's guest is a manifestation expert, healer, podcast host, and author of Money Manifestation Mastery. With over 2 decades of experience as a healer and spiritual coach, she empowers entrepreneurs, leaders, and professionals to overcome blocks, align with their true value, and manifest wealth in all areas of life. Passionate about authentic success, she helps driven business owners tap into their creative power to achieve financial freedom and high-impact results, guided by soul and wisdom. Please welcome Lara Waldman. Hello, Lara, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Money manifestation. What is it?
Good question. So, money manifestation is a practice to help you with your inner game around money and wealth creation. So, with money manifestation, what we're doing is clearing out any unconscious blocks or barriers that will be stopping you from making more money, having money, or blocks and barriers that may be creating an unhappy relationship with money, and helping you to really heal your whole relationship with money. And after clearing out the block, it's a practice of opening up to receive more money, to know that you're worthy of receiving money, that you're deserving, that you can, that you're allowed, and opening up your creative potential to ways of welcoming in more money into your life. There's an inner transformational process for outer change.
You gave a really great explanation of what it is. So how does someone go about producing that? And are there any misconceptions as well? Is it as straightforward as I'm going to think about it and the next day I'm going to have money in my pocket?
Well, it's not usually as simple as that. And I have spent 20 years sort of hyperfixated on this subject because I understood about manifestation, which is the idea that we have the power to consciously create our life. So I was like, well, if that's the case, then why aren't things landing? Why aren't things manifesting? So I spent a lot of time really understanding the inner blocks to manifesting not just money, but whatever it is that you want. But what is really important is first to get clear on what you want. So most people are in a reaction to life or just responding to life as it is. And we can get very tied up in the experience that we're having as the only thing that's possible. First, you want to get really clear on what you actually want. That's not necessarily determined by your current life or your past. And that even in itself needs some holding and needs space, because what happens almost immediately when I ask people, what do you want? How much money do you want? What do you want your financial reality to be? That needs a bit of nurturing to get clear on that. So that's the first thing. And then after that, what's so interesting, the problem with us human beings is we can't see ourselves. Our eyes look out. And when it comes to money and when it comes to money manifestation, there is so much running us that is unconscious and that's in our blind spot. So the next step is to understand that there are things going on within your mind, your emotions, your body, your nervous system, the cells even, that are unconsciously creating the experience of your financial reality. And this is the very interesting thing that is like the invisible, and it's sometimes very illogical. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients is helping them to do that inner work. What is going on around your beliefs? So your thoughts, your emotions, how you feel, and also on a body level, what's living inside of your nervous system. We know now that we are carrying the history of our ancestors right inside of our DNA. So there's a lot going on that's in the way, or that's mostly unconsciously creating our lived experience. And this isn't just with money, this is with everything. So we go and then get clear on what are the thoughts, what are the beliefs, what are the emotions that you have around money. If the money that you want were to knock on your door how do you react? How do you respond? Are you like, welcome, come on in? Or are you like, who is this creep? And it's quite interesting because people will say, of course, I want more money. But actually, when we go within, we realize there's a lot of, money trauma, actually. A lot of people have a really negative relationship with money. So we want to go and do that inner work, which is about transforming your relationship with money, starting within. And then from there, a really cool process begins where on the other side of that, on the other side of the unhealthy relationship with money or your negative experience, let's say, around it, or the lack or the not enough or whatever it is, we then want to go what I call mining for gold and tap into a version of yourself I call future wealthy you. And this is who you are when the money is here. So let's say a lot of people say they want to make, pay themselves 10 grand a month. So the version of yourself that's making 120 grand a year, 10 grand a month, who is that version of you? This is the version that's empowered, that's has the money, that has that financial safety and security. Who is that version of you? And so this is about the version of you that you need to become in order to manifest and consciously create the wealth that you desire. So what's really interesting about this is there is an identity shift or a journey of growth and transformation, again, within the inner game in order to create the external results that you desire. So the version of yourself that is having your current lived experience, your current financial reality, will be different to the future wealthy you, who you are when the money is here. So we start to get to know the difference. And we start building a relationship with that future wealthy you and get to know them. So you want to connect to future wealthy you and then lead from your wealth. What happens is we're programmed to just continue on as life as usual. We have this hard wiring that just kicks in. And it's actually a training to get to know that future wealthy you and start to become them now. So I call this going to the money gym. And this is part of a daily practice. And then an amazing, amazing thing happens. You start to reclaim and reconnect to this version of yourself, which is essentially you when you're safe, when you're secure, when you're in your power, when you're not giving your power away. And there is a part of this that's energetic and sort of the magical manifestation. And a part of this is just very practical, which is about consciously creating and then taking aligned action in alignment with what you want. So partly you'll be taking the correct action steps towards what you want. But there's a whole energetic that is so, so interesting, which is around the law of attraction, or what I call rewire to receive, where you can start to draw what you want towards you and magnetize what you want towards you. So there's this vortex of receiving. If you ever heard of Abraham Hicks, they talk about the vortex. We've heard the law of attraction. And I can see this energetically, that once you've cleared your blocks, you start to create a vortex of receiving, you start to draw towards you. So this is where opportunities can come out of, like, seemingly come out of thin air, like all these amazing, things appear. And yes, I have clients that land money from unexpected places and spaces. And it's a combination of the unseen, invisible works of energy, drawing what you want towards you, and practical action that you need to take. So it's definitely a combination of both.
So I just want to ask you, because you at the very beginning mentioned visualization, because sometimes you only know what you know.
Yes.
So how can you think outside a box into something a lot bigger, into something that you may not actually associate with yourself? So how can you be open to visualize something that's greater than what you may know or may imagine?
Well, that's actually part of the practice. It is actually a training, because some people are very visionary. When you go in and you tap into, like, what do you want? You can start to see what you want and who you are. Some people are able to do that, and that's something they can do. But it's also a skill that you can develop. So you start to see or imagine what your life would be like at that level. Now, you're actually training your brain. You're actually training yourself ahead of time. So you'll notice as soon as you hold the vision for what you want, that inner critic will come in, or the voices in your head will come in. And those are all the money blocks that you need to it's like the old story. Sometimes it's like the ancestors, sometimes it's your parents, sometimes it's friends. And you have to kind of keep releasing and clearing it, and hold the vision of that future wealthy you. You can do a vision board. and just hold space. And it doesn't even need to take that long to do that every day. But not everyone connects to vision. Well, this is about tapping into your senses. So some people can feel it. So, and it's a very, very powerful thing. This is when you can see, but you can also feel it. So actually, what would it feel like? And this is actually where manifestation is the most important. You start becoming, I call it becoming the vibrational frequency of who you are and what you want. Where who is that version of yourself? The feeling of when that money is here, the feeling of when what you want is landed, and bringing it through the body. So that's another way. So there's vision, but there's also bringing it through the other senses. Some people hear it like an inner voice that is speaking. So there's a number of ways, mainly that the practices around visualization or these other things I've been talking about. So getting out of the head, getting out of the logical mind, because manifestation, it's not logical. It's actually getting out of the head into the heart, into the body. I call it, creating with the consciousness of your soul or source energy, your heart's consciousness and your body's wisdom, which is out of the hardwiring of this beautiful brain.
The hardwiring, again, is something I wanted to talk about even further, because you talked about the emotions, you talked about the traumas of our ancestors. How big a role does that play in all this in terms of that rewiring and relearning?
I think it's huge. And I think this is the bit that we cannot see. It's that we're carrying so much inside of our bodies. I've been a healer for over 20 years, and I've worked with many, many bodies. And it's incredible what we carry inside of us. I think we carry Earth's history inside of us, not just our ancestral line. We like to create a lot of separation in our minds, but it's massive. We're carrying all the memory in our body somehow. I spent a long time trying to really work on healing of the past, which is a part of this process. But actually, it's just about acknowledging when you're hitting up against a roadblock or hitting up against an obstacle, that there is more at play than just what you're thinking and what you're feeling. There's like a physiological response that kicks in, and that may not make logical sense. There's a lot to sift through in terms of the noise that keeps you in separation with, who you are and what you want. My big purpose is that part of this work is about healing the past, reclaiming your power to consciously create a better future. And you might be the first one in your ancestral line, in your family, that is empowered, that's financially secure, that has options, that's able to be in an empowered position to create what you want. So to me, it's a very, very powerful work on that level.
So how can someone stay consistent with their manifestation practices, but also what advice would you give to someone who's trying to manifest wealth, but they're struggling with debt or financial hardship?
Well, very, very good question. So again, there's always the inner game, and then there's the outer game. So I specialize in the inner game. I have clients and colleagues who also specialize in the step-by-step of financial management and how to get out of debt. So there'll be a practical step-by-step of how to do that. But it's also about really understanding the inner psychology that gets you into debt in the first place. So to create wealth isn't like a quick fix thing. You can manifest money, right? You can manifest money and relatively quickly. But if you want to build wealth, it's more foundational. That's going to take time. So the first thing is, my inner guidance always says wealth doesn't rush. Like, it's slow, steady, sustainable, and it's not going to be like a quick fix thing. And sometimes when we're wanting to move forward, I want to transform my financial reality, but you look at your financial reality and you've got debt. It's like you have to kind of go into some places that feel really hard to look at. And so with debt, there's a lot of decisions that were made to get to that place. And there's lots of reasons why people are in debt. And there's different types of debt. The inner game I do with that is really understanding, this is going to maybe sound a little bit deep and not really connected, but there's unheld parts that are making decisions all the time. We're constantly seeking outside of us, right? We're seeking for pleasure. We're seeking for, I don't know. We're looking outside of ourselves. And what happens is we self-abandon when we do that. And actually, what I found, the inner workings of debt is going and meeting the unheld, unloved aspects of the self, and to go and, I call it rewire to receive. This is the bit that I find a little bit hard to explain sometimes, because we're going into very illogical territory, but we want to find the parts that are making your spending decisions, right? That are seeking pleasure or seeking comfort, or we're actually suppressing something deep within that's too painful. And that people often get into debt because they're making decisions to grow out without actually building the strong foundations within. So, and we're very much in a culture that teaches us to go into debt as well. So I would say it's a combination of doing the really deep inner reflection around where was I making decisions from, which is usually sort of like unconscious, disconnected, and going and doing that inner work and then getting practical help to actually step by step out of it. This requires, I think, with money and with money problems, there's usually a lot of shame and fear. And so my passion is how do we create a safe space to do that deep healing work around our relationship with money and create a safe space to really be with the unconscious or the shadow aspects of the self, because they need to be loved. I call it like we have to love these parts back into life so that you can feel safe to go in, because most people don't want to feel. I'll tell you something really interesting is that it's a very, very simple thing to say and maybe even a bit annoying, which is the number one thing that blocks people from manifesting money and making more money is a feeling they don't want to feel.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this is the thing again. It's so interesting. When we don't want to feel a certain feeling, we do all sorts of things. A lot of people will like overeat, or will go on like binge on social media, we'll drink too much, or we'll take drugs. So we have a like kind of an addiction, and that overspending is part of that, which can get people into consumer debt. Feeling we don't want to feel. Well, there's a few levels and layers of it. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's grief, sometimes it's fear. But in there, I've spent a long time trying to like get to the root of these money blocks. There's shame and often not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough. And underneath there, we're like, I'm alone in the universe. So we're seeking to fill a hole, right? We're looking to fill a hole outside of ourselves that cannot be filled by things, right? And so what I've found is with debt, the energetics of debt anyways, is that there's a part of the self that's not being held and that's not being received and not being loved. And they're in the shadows, kind of like the hungry ghost is a really great way to, and it's insatiable. It's insatiable. So, and I've learned this the hard way myself with my financial issues. And also I've had eating disorders, and I've like had, so many things I've had to overcome with addictions and things. I've learned this the hard way personally, but I've also spent, years coaching clients within this kind of shadow aspects of money. Basically, it's about rewiring our whole relationship with money. And it goes very deep. The psychology of money goes very deep.
How long would it take for someone to manifest money? And does it work for everyone? And is it for everyone?
Very good question. Well, I think it's like how long is a piece of string? So I've had clients who manifest like a high-end 10K client like immediately, and someone else within 2 weeks had manifested 25 grand from unexpected places, and money landing in unusual and unexpected places. So that definitely happens, which is cool, which is interesting. But I'm also all about empowerment, and I want to empower. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I'll win the lottery, but I'm also really interested in supporting people with this who want to earn it, who want to create it, who want to be powerful. So that might also be about kind of finding ways. Yeah, like I work with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, for example, or people in leadership positions that have ways to create, because you can create more from that place, right? So how long, it depends what you're building, and it depends what you're trying to create. So it really is how long is a piece of string. If you're trying to build like foundational wealth and sustainable wealth and financial freedom, that's going to take you time. And is it for everyone? Well, I would say not everyone's willing to do the work. But if people are consistent and persistent enough and don't give up on themselves and don't quit, it's absolutely available to everyone. It's a bit hard on the brain because it's not logical work. It's going into, like I said, the invisible or the unconscious places. So I find that the people who really thrive within this work really love self-development. They love growth. They love evolution. They want to heal. They want to be a better human. They want to do things differently. And they're kind of more natural leaders, I would say. Also tend to be on the kind of energetically aware or soulful spiritual side, because they're kind of open to energy and understanding how energy works as well. So I would say not everyone is up for playing that game. And it's not a game everyone wants to play, but the mechanics of it works for everyone every time when done in the right order, and then you continue to do the work, right? It's not just about magical manifestation, although it can seem like that and feel like that sometimes. It's about persistency and being consistent and making sure you're well educated as well and wanting to be empowered.
Thinking about your own personal experience,
Mm.
how has manifesting money changed your life beyond the finances? Has there been any other unexpected benefits or surprises that you may have had along the way?
Oh, yeah. And I would say every single one of my clients say the money is not the thing. The money is like the symptom. It's like the cherry on top for a much deeper, richer work. Money alone is usually doesn't really motivate people that much. Some people are motivated by money, but I definitely wasn't. And I'm still not really. It's about the inner transformation. So for me, I grew up around money. I grew up around wealth. That was my normal. But I didn't feel that when I was a child, that we grew up in a very affluent part of Canada. But it's funny, like, it's like whatever you have, someone has more. And so we had a pretty affluent lifestyle, but there were always people that were wealthier than me. So it just never felt like we were that wealthy. I looked at the other people thinking, oh, they're the wealthy ones, you know. And also my parents had a lot of, fear and scarcity. And there was a lot of, this is why I was so interested in our relationship with money, because even though we had it, it didn't feel like we did. It just felt like lack and scarcity and fear and survival. So I'm like, we don't have enough. We don't. So that was the first bit. And then I went through quite a lot of trauma and then had a sort of spiritual awakening when I was 18. And that's when I became, a healer and spiritual coach and everything. And I basically was only interested in, the heart and the soul and purpose and helping and giving. But didn't realize at the time, but I completely rejected money. I completely said, it's not about the material world. It's about the spiritual world. It's about the heart. It's about being a better human in the world. So this work came into me. I wasn't planning to talk about money, teach about money. It was not my plan at all. But what happened was I was forced into this subject because we were in a total financial crisis when I had two little babies. And my husband had a good job, but it wasn't very well paid and it couldn't support a family. And I was home with babies like full time. We couldn't actually afford childcare. It was a mess. And this is when I started basically channeling in this information. So this work of money manifestation mastery has taken me on a profound journey of growth and evolution that really I did not expect, which was really looking at where I had cut off from my power and where I had created separation between myself and money. Because for me, creating separation between yourself and money is creating separation between yourself and power. And I had rejected power because I thought it was bad. I thought money was bad and power was bad, and all had this all I could see in the world was unhealthy examples of money and power. And I was like, I didn't want anything to do with that. A very spiritual woman. And it was teaching me about how I had shut off from my own power and why that was. And so really this has been a journey about coming back into my power, connecting to my heart, connecting to my soul. I'd already been well connected on that level, but about bringing it down through the body. Meaning, how are you living and being in the physical world? It's one thing to, bliss out in meditation, but it's another thing of how are you living and being as a human? And for me, it's been about learning about being a better leader, being a better mother, being a better partner, being a better human, how to grow a business that is really redefining my relationship with money and wealth, but also power. What does that look like? What does my languages, what does heart, body, soul aligned power look like? What does heart, body, soul aligned wealth look like? What does it look like when we're creating from this deeper, richer place? So it has radically kind of transformed me in a lot of ways, but mostly it's made me be more of who I truly am and come back to who I truly am and what I want. And honestly, the amount of shame and fear and guilt and I've had to clear just to find something so simple has been really, really interesting to me. So I would say I feel safe. It's more about feeling safe to be my true authentic self in the world and to feel my power, but not a power over. It's a power of being deeply connected to myself and the universe and the planet and people. So that's what I've got out of it so far.
What one piece of advice would you provide to someone who wants to start manifestation?
Well, I would say the one piece of information is you're not going to figure this out through your logical mind and your head. So this is a journey about waking up your senses. And you have to feel your way through it. So it's illogical, and the brain is going to kick up and fight you on it because it's looking for data and evidence and security and safety. So I would say it's about waking up your senses, how you feel, right? Trusting that it's about connecting to your intuition, because we are all manifesting all the time. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. We are mostly just unconsciously creating and manifesting all the time. We just don't realize it. And so this is about tapping into the wisdom of your soul, your heart, your body, the planet, whatever level you can connect on, because people connect on different levels, and starting to trust that inner knowing. And it's about trusting yourself. So, but that's a process, that's a journey. And it's really about rebuilding your relationship with yourself, first and foremost, and yourself in life. So that's where I would begin, out of the head into the heart.
Lara, you have given us food for thought, and I really appreciate our discussion today. And I'd like to thank you for being a guest on this podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. And I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
If you would like further details about Lara, then please follow links in the show notes.